What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is Rustbeard, and today we're going to be talking about the greatest season of all time. One that is just around the corner and hopefully will last as long as it possibly can, because it's just the best, and it's my favorite, and it always will be my favorite. We're talking about the fall, of course, and fall, autumn, spooky season, all of that stuff is just my favorite time of year, all around. Whether it be the aesthetic of it, whether it be the food, whether it be the atmosphere, it doesn't matter. Everything about fall is pretty much where I am the most comfortable. It's where I'm the most creative. It's where I'm the most just at peace with everything around me. I could be having a really rough time with things and a really rough go with life, and if it's fall, I'm still at least a little bit okay. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about fall movies, at least fall movies that I personally enjoy myself, movies that make me feel like the fall spirit, make me think of the fall spirit. So I could do all horror movies, because horror movies is just kind of what you watch in the fall. It's what you watch for spooky season and so forth. But I don't want to do that, because there are so many other movies that aren't necessarily horror movies that make me feel that fall vibe, you know? So I wanted to throw some movies in here that are family friendly. Some of them are not family friendly. They're just movies in general that make me feel like fall. Hopefully that you guys also will feel the same way about, and maybe some that you have not seen, or maybe ones that you have not seen in a while and I've just jogged your memory, and hopefully you'll go and watch these movies and just get ready for the fall spirit and have a great autumn. Okay, so first things first, these are not in order in any particular way. This is not a ranking. This is just generally top 10-ish. I might throw in a couple extras here and there, but not in any particular order. None of these are better than any other ones, because the way that I've got it set up, with some of them being horror movies, some of them not being horror movies, some of them being kid movies, there's not really any way to rank these properly. So if you guys are interested in a ranking of like the top 10 horror movies that I like to watch every fall, which I might do anyway, let me know down in the comments below, and I will see what I can do about that. Same with top 10 kids movies to watch for the fall, or any kind of fall related thing. If you want an actual ranking or tier list of something like that, just let me know. One that I watch every single fall, we usually watch it on Thanksgiving, as a matter of fact, so this is a little bit more in the later fall, but Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's just a very cozy film. It's got a absolutely amazing cast. Wes Anderson, the director, is just a phenomenal director. He's got a really weird and quirky style that I thoroughly enjoy. And no matter what Wes Anderson film you watch, even like Isle of Dogs, for example, even though it's not really a fall movie, you still feel cozy watching it, even though, I mean, Isle of Dogs is a little bit more serious in tone. Fantastic Mr. Fox is like the go-to fall movie for us. Me and my sister, we watch it every Thanksgiving. We try to anyway. And I have introduced so many of my friends and family to this movie. For some reason, it went under a lot of people's radar somehow, and I don't know why, but there's only a handful of people that I've met that have actually watched it in my personal group of people, my personal circle of acquaintances and friends and whatnot, but most of them now have watched it through me, so that's cool. And I'm glad to have been able to show them this movie. And even people that aren't really into this style of movie or this type of animation still end up enjoying it, because it's fun. The cast is really great. The writings are great. The quirky jokes and all that stuff, like, it's just really good to watch for the fall season. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check out Fantastic Mr. Fox, you absolutely should. Next one on my list is a little bit kind of a horror movie, kind of not a horror movie, kind of an adventure. The Brothers Grimm with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger. Now, this is one of my favorite Heath Ledger movies, personally. I like a lot of Heath Ledger movies, to be honest with you, even though there's a lot of like rom-coms and stuff I'm pretty sure he's been in. But all the ones that I have watched that are not rom-coms, I've liked quite a bit. This is one that I watch more than some of the other ones, not including The Dark Knight. That's a whole different level of it on its own. So we're not even categorizing that in Heath Ledger movies. That's like a whole different ballgame. I don't know if it would fall into the category of a movie that's so bad it's good, because I personally loved it, and I've always loved it, but it could also be nostalgia. It could be just some kind of bias that I've had because I've been watching it since I was little. I don't know, but I've always loved it. I know a lot of people that don't love it, that think it's just awful, which I personally don't understand, but like I said, it's probably some kind of nostalgia bias. I think it's a very good movie, and I think it does give off the fall vibes quite a bit. It gives off that old school Hansel and Gretel, lost in the woods, spooky stories, and whatnot that just make me feel like fall. Now, I will say there are some pretty heavy adult themes in this, so if you're going to watch with your littles, make sure you are aware of that. The next one on my list, I would absolutely watch with them, and that is Monster House. Monster House is another one which I guess you can kind of categorize as a horror movie, but it's not really. It's still animated, it's still lighthearted, there's still a lot of jokes. There's also just a lot of stuff for adults to enjoy about this movie as well, but you cannot argue with me that the opening sequence in Monster House doesn't give you that just warm and cozy fall feeling that the autumn season just brings. It just encompasses everything. The little girl riding on the trike over the dead leaves and stuff in the road, and people are out trick-or-treating and all this stuff, or getting ready to trick-or-treat, and the jack-o'-lanterns and stuff. It fits the fall aesthetic so well, and I could just watch that scene on loop. It's so good. I love it. Anytime that I get a chance to watch Monster House in the fall, I'm absolutely taking it. One of the staples for sure. Now, another one that's not necessarily a fall movie, I don't think, but it definitely gives me fall vibes. It actually might be more of a spring movie, technically, but for some reason it gives me fall vibes anyway. That is Coraline. Coraline is just... the whole soundtrack itself makes me feel like the fall. It does have kind of a weird spooky undertone to it, and it's just an incredible animation, and the level of detail that they put into that movie is absolutely incredible. I don't know how people can dedicate that much time to an animation that's only this long when it took this long to make. It's incredible, and I really, really wish there were more movies like this. But Coraline, for sure, is a staple. We watch it every single year, without fail. Sometimes we do watch it in the spring, but it is definitely a personal fall movie for me. I like to watch it in the fall because it gives me those vibes. And I'm going to go ahead and lump Corpse Bride in with this one as well, because it's the same style of animation, even though I know they're not the same director. But Corpse Bride also might give off winter vibes, I suppose, but personally, I think that the Tim Burton aesthetic in general is very fall, so take that for what you will, but Corpse Bride is definitely one of those movies that I just think are phenomenal during the fall season. I would watch it during the winter season as well, but I don't know, the songs make me feel like fall, the aesthetic makes me feel like fall, so there's that. Another one that may not be specifically fall or centered around things that are fall, but still gives me that same feeling of fall. And it might actually take place in the fall for the most part. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it does. But it's either very early winter or late fall, if you ask me. And that is Jumanji. The original Jumanji is, everyone's wearing coats and stuff the whole time, and they're out, in their long sleeves and jeans and stuff like that. And all the trees, I'm pretty sure, close to dead or dying and whatnot. So I think that Jumanji is a pretty good movie to watch in the fall. And again, with this list, I'm trying to just give you personal picks, ones that I feel like give me fall vibes. Feel free to disagree or agree with me in the comments below. But Jumanji is one of those that I know it's kind of a stretch with the fall thing, but it makes me feel like fall. It's a cozy movie for me. It's one of those movies that I can just sit down and watch anytime, honestly, but watching it in the fall is like 10 times better for some reason. And I just think that also could be nostalgia. Who knows? I could be sitting there with a cup of coffee in the fall, drinking and watching Jumanji, and I could be at peace. The world could be burning around me, and I would be at peace with that scenario. I also think that Jumanji is a movie that deserves a whole video on itself, so there's that. It is just an incredible movie. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, and I'll stand by that, dude. I'll die on that hill. It's such a good movie, and I think it holds up still to this day. My next three are going to not be animations. They're going to be a little bit on the scarier side, and we'll start with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I think, went under a lot of people's radar, but I feel like it's a pretty well done movie with what they had. I grew up with the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. and I currently own them all as well. They're some of my favorite stories. I have always loved them. I always will love them. I think that they are just incredible stories that absolutely haunted my nightmares and my dreams and my waking life all at the same time when I was younger. Reading these in school, especially some of the more dark stories in school during a quiet period or in the library, would absolutely make me jump out of my skin at the slightest pin drop of sound. I would be out of my skin in some of these cases. When I found out that they were making a movie for these stories, I was a little bit concerned, because how do you do that? You know, they're all scary stories, but they're not the same timeline of stories. They're all different stories and so forth. So the way they did it, I thought was pretty creative, and I thought that they did a pretty good job doing that. However, there's a couple of things that I honestly wish they would have done a little bit differently, and I also wish they would have included more stories, because there's 3 books. There's 3 of them, you know? So, yes, they got, like, a lot of the really big ones. Most of the really big ones, I think, were put in there. My number one complaint, I think, and it's such a little complaint, so don't come at me. I wish they would have made the Medai Dodi Walker look like he did in the book, with the beard and, like, I don't know, he looked kind of cheesy in the movie is all I'm saying. Everybody else looked great. All the other, like, references to the books were great. And there's even some parts that are genuinely pretty terrifying, so there's that. I think the cast did a great job. All the kids that were in the movie did a great job. And I highly recommend it. Super awesome fall vibes. Very cool movie. Check it out if you haven't gotten a chance to. Next on my list is one that probably encompasses the fall vibes more than anything else on this list, other than my first pick, which I'll get to in just a little bit, but Sleepy Hollow. And I'm talking about the Tim Burton one, of course, in this specific scenario. However, if you wanted to watch the Ichabod and Mr. Toad version of it, it's also an amazing, incredible short film. It's lumped together with the Mr. Toad story in the full movie, but you could always just skip the Mr. Toad stuff and go straight to the Ichabod stuff, which is literally just the tale of Sleepy Hollow. It's a much shorter version of the story than the Tim Burton version, of course. There's a lot less disposition, a lot less backstory and so forth, but it is still very good. So if you wanted to check that out as well, it is very good. I would highly recommend watching that anyway, because it's a really cool, it's a really cool version of the Sleepy Hollow story in the style of a Disney animation, so I thought that was pretty cool. I've always loved it, even when I was little. Probably why I have an obsession with the Headless Horseman, and why the Headless Horseman in the Tale of Sleepy Hollow is one of my favorites to this day. But the Tim Burton version is also amazing. One of the greatest, dark goth horror movies, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's categorized as, that we have, I think, in my personal opinion. So, check that out for sure. Johnny Depp's got an awesome performance in it. As well as, dude, honestly, I don't even know why I mentioned just Johnny Depp, because the whole cast is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody did a damn good job, and I think that if you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a disservice, so please go check that out as soon as you possibly can. The closer to Halloween you watch it, the better. Trust me. Now, one more thing, or this is the last movie I'm going to talk about. The last thing I'm going to talk about is not a movie, but it's something that absolutely just 100% encompasses the fall aesthetic, the autumn feeling, better than anything I've seen in recent times. I cannot mention this list without this movie in particular, because it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and that is Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Very first Nightmare on Elm Street is amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. I think that with what they had and what they were working with during the time period that they made it, it was so good. The practical effects, great. The attention to detail, awesome. I think it still stands the test of time. It's still one of people's favorite horror movies. Sometimes it's people's favorite movie of all time, which I think is kind of crazy. It's really good, man. It's a really good movie. It's one that I watch on Halloween every single year, and I will continue to do so. Freddy is my favorite of the big 3. And he will continue to be my favorite of the big 3. If you want to know my opinions on the big 3 in general and their movie franchises, obviously I'm referring to Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th, check out my podcast with Derek from The Crypt. From The Crypt is where we talk about movie franchises, movies, music, video games, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you're interested in that and you want to hear more stuff about the big 3, We've got some stuff on Friday the 13th coming up here soon. We've got some stuff on Nightmare on Elm Street coming up in October. And of course, we have stuff on Halloween coming up here soon as well. I think we actually already have some stuff on Halloween and Friday the 13th up. So check those out if you want to know more about that stuff from my perspective and my buddy Derek's perspective. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and go into the last thing I'm going to talk about. And that is, of course, Over the Garden Wall. I know, Over the Garden Wall is not a movie. It's not even really a series, it's a mini-series. It's a short little series that you could probably watch in the span of a movie's time. Each episode's only like 10 minutes long. But let me tell you, when I say fall aesthetic, Over the Garden Wall is exactly what I picture. Very rustic, very in the woods, very nature, you know, but it's all just got that really soft, soft rustic feeling over the whole thing. You know, it's got a very Tim Burton feel. It's got a very kind of a goth feel to it. The animation style is absolutely incredible. I don't know the name of the dude that did the art or the artists that did the art, but they're absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch Over the Garden Wall, you absolutely should. It is phenomenal. It is such a good, just fantastic miniseries. The music's phenomenal. The songs are great. The cast is awesome. The story is incredible. I have a tattoo of Greg actually on my leg. It's just such a good show. And for some reason, there's a lot of people that I know that just kind of like missed it. But I'm telling you right now, it is worth every single second. You can watch it in the same time you can watch a movie. So what are you waiting for? Go check out Over the Garden Wall. And yeah, that's my list, man. I mean, there's tons of other stuff that I could probably talk about. I know, like, Kubo and the Two Strings is another one that I go to quite a bit in the fall. But, and Paranorman, of course. Like, there's obvious things that people just gravitate to in the fall. And these are ones that I personally gravitate to. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. What are the fall movies that you watch in the fall? Ones that make you feel like sitting down with a cinnamon roll and a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and just watching with some blankets and just chilling out for the day. Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you give me a giant thumbs up if you like this video or anything else I've got on my channel. And if you want to see any of those other things on my channel or more stuff like this, of course let me know down in the comments, but make sure you hit the sub button. Help me get to 500 subs by the end of the year. Please, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.